Lord of the Rings: Return to Moria, a survival crafting game set in Tolkien's universe and pledged to be a Valheim but with dwarves, was one of my most hotly anticipated games of 2023. Now, I know, with everything else that came out in 2023, it seems a little silly that a AA Lord of the Rings title was on the top of my radar. But Lord of the Rings is about 82% of my entire personality, and I love Valheim, and I hold it as one of my favorite survival crafting games of all time. So, smushing those two things together into some weird lore-adjacent love child that allowed me to explore and rebuild Moria, I was bricked up beyond belief.
Bruh.
But now, after 30 hours of playtime, I hate to say it, Gimlis and gamers, Return to Moria is a pretty major letdown. There are things I liked, there are a lot of things I didn't like, and there are a whole bunch of choices that I'm just sort of baffled by. Let's get into it.
My cousin Balin will give us a royal welcome.
I'll hand it to Return to Moria. This game starts off on a really strong note.
The introductory sequence features John Rhys Davies reprising his role as an older Gimli in the Fourth Age, returning with a band of dwarves from all across Middle-earth to reclaim Moria as the dwarven capital and central home.
Made much easier, I'll add, by Gandalf kicking the absolute shit out of the Balrog during the events of Fellowship. None of this is particularly lore accurate, but it honors things well enough and it sets up the story well.
You're then quickly prompted to create your own dwarf character. Now, again, Return to Moria had me hooked with the character creation. There was a remarkable amount of depth and variation to the dwarves you were able to create. I always felt like dwarves weren't given enough attention in Peter Jackson's films or in the main parts of Tolkien's books, so it was really fun to see the different dwarvish cultures and styles and get a little fun bit of lore on each of them.
After making and naming your dwarf, mine, naturally, was named Bofar of Clan D's.
That's my wee lad.
You get dropped into a cutscene. Because the doors of Durin were sealed shut during the Fellowship scuffle with the Watcher in the water, Gimli now has his band of dwarves packing just an absolutely irresponsible amount of explosives into a sapper's tunnel right next to the entryway. Before anyone gets a chance to cosplay as Oppenheimer by absentmindedly lighting up a pipe packed full of old Toby, a strange miasma appears out of nowhere, collapsing the floor directly beneath where your character is standing, dropping you into
Gandalf, we could pass through the mines of Moria.
gameplay.
We're back. Gameplay is happening.
At this point, I'm still totally bought in.
We're getting to explore Moria. We're alone at this point, but that makes sense. We're gonna learn the basics of gameplay like our health and eating and how to dig tunnels, and then surely we'll link up the rest of Gimli's crew and start taking Moria back.
The basic gameplay struck me as fun at the start of Return to Moria. Gathering resources and seeing new recipes unlock, being ominously followed but not yet attacked by goblins. We're through the tutorial tunnel. Now it's time to open up the doors of Durin. Okay, now we're through the tutorial tunnel. Now it's just time to open up the doors of Durin and then we'll start taking back Moria and then... Oh, wait.
What is wrong with it? I have never seen runes with such shadow. No wonder we could not get it open from the other side.
We can't open the doors of Durin. And now the talking bird is saying that to reunite with Gimli, we're gonna have to walk through all of Moria.
There's no way west. No way out.
I did not think we would see shadow-cursed runes in Moria. Our path, then, must go east.
Long journey. You must prepare.
Alone? This game is starting to veer off of my expectations. Well, at least I'll get into combat with these freaky deaky goblins. Well, at least I'll get to get into combat with these freaky deaky little goblins that have been following me around and start building up a base, right?
And they call it a mine. A mine!
This is no mine. It's a tomb.
Return to Moria starts so strong and so disappointingly quickly began to fizzle for me. The marketing campaigns leading up to launch didn't really offer up a lot of details on what you could expect from the gameplay loop. All I had to go off of was, this is Lord of the Rings Valheim. And while that is accurate in some regards, I think that my brain had just latched onto a different part of Valheim's gameplay loop. For me, Valheim has always been about the construction and base building aspect of the game. I'm motivated to hunt bosses and progress through biomes because I want to get better building materials to increase the scale and beauty of my bases and outposts that are dotted throughout the world. Moria is not that. Where Valheim is a full open world, Moria is more of a series of hallways and node areas.
The game doesn't encourage you to do anything other than hope you get the right materials to make the next item that will let you break slightly thicker cave-in dirt to move to the next hallway to get the next RNG dropped items and repeat it all over again. There are these amazing abandoned towns and buildings and mines, and never once did I ever feel like the game encouraged any freeform building or desire to nest, simply railroading me into running forward as quickly as I could and setting up the most bare bones quarters necessary in the next node area to stock up and manage my painfully small inventory. Hey, guess what, chat? My inventory's full yet again.
In spite of myself, I kept pushing forward. First and foremost, because I am a Lord of the Rings turbo simp, and also because the dev team really did just nail the environments in this game. I'm going to take a brief departure from my criticism to say that I genuinely loved just wandering around Moria, taking in the environments and the art design, having my dwarf sing songs about breaking big rocks down into smaller rocks.
For if I stay my one true love, for if I stay, said she.
Is this Auld Lang Syne?
I spend in your arms, more faded will I be.
And just enjoying the small pieces of lore dotted throughout and the love that the dev team clearly has for Tolkien's universe.
Sign of the Fellowship? Lore? The Fellowship was here. I found a wee set of Shire-made travel plates and forks. These must have been left behind by one of Lord Gimli's Hobbit companions.
I need to be adamantly clear that Return to Moria is far from the train wreck that Gollum was, and any comparison between the two just feels like clickbait to me. But you'll notice I haven't talked about a key component of the game. The combat. The way Moria wants you to experience it is by moving forwards towards a specific area. That area is then gated by a need for better gear. So you gather the materials needed for that better gear, you do a little combat, you dig a little tunnel, and then you continue that process. The problem is that the combat is just, well, watch this and then we can talk about it.
Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Cut it out.
The combat is just weightless, weirdly floaty, and it lacks any weight, impact, or crunch. It doesn't feel like anything.
Oh, I'm gonna fucking die.
Well, hold on. Let me take that back. It does feel boring. And with the Lord of the Rings films and the majority of the games, we know what good combat should look, feel, and sound like. Fights in Moria have about the same impact as scratching milk and eggs off your grocery list. They just lack any sort of satisfactory punch. Better gear and different attack styles don't change that much, and the basic interactions are all just really underwhelming.
And that's an issue, because if you're following the Valheim formula, where the three main pillars are exploration, combat, and building, you're only getting a pass in a third of those areas
because you're banking on your player just loving exploring Moria, then you're running the risk of losing their interest entirely. It's me. I'm that player. The thing is that everything about Return to Moria is totally passable. It's not a poorly made game by any means. It's just all so insanely mid. I just feel like a disappointed dad where I feel like my child isn't living up to their full potential. Some of this has to do with the execution and choices that this game has made, and some of this also has to do with my own pre-launch expectations that I don't think were managed properly.
Soon, Master Elf, you will enjoy the fabled hospitality of the dwarves. Roaring fires, malt beer, red meat off the bone. Oh. No!
I've griped on and on throughout this video, but I think what bothers me the most about Return to Moria is that it's functionally not anywhere close to being a bad game. Its biggest failing in my eyes, I think, is almost coming back to the marketing. I was very deeply invested in knowing more about this game leading up to launch, and I just feel like the marketing did very little to help me understand what exactly to expect from the final product. With my expectations unmanaged, my imagination and hopes and dreams were able to run wild, building Return to Moria up into something that I wanted, as opposed to what the developers were actually intending. That being said, I don't feel like I'm alone in my feelings. If we were to look at the reception of Return to Moria on a Whelm-based scale, I would be standing firmly under it. and I think there's a lot of reasons why. 1. Loneliness. I think this was the biggest pie-in-the-sky dream that I had for Return to Moria. Now, hear me out. I love Dragon Quest Builders 2.
Particularly having access to NPCs and being able to assign them to help run your bases, harvest food, and craft items. Because I had nothing to confirm or deny my assumptions, I was under the impression that you'd eventually unlock access to Gimli's horde of NPC dwarves to rebuild and re-inhabit Moria, giving you an excuse to rebuild settlements, allowing for resource automation, and also giving a tangible feeling of actually retaking the mines for the dwarves, as opposed to running from abandoned area to abandoned area.
Could I have reduced this feeling a little bit by playing with friends? Maybe, but I still don't think that it would get anywhere near to what I feel the experience is lacking. 2. Freedom. Now, freedom is a broad term, but I think this is especially where my expectations were not managed to fit within the scope of the game. Moria feels largely linear, which to me feels largely out of place in the survival crafting genre, which to me has always been more about having a large open sandbox to build and play and progress how the player sees fit. The game's story progression and hallway to node system gives the illusion of an open world, but largely keeps you on a set track moving from one area to the next unlock to the next node area, so on and so forth. It's almost like a Metroidvania in that you're progressively unlocking the next thing you need to move ahead, but it's even less freeform than that. Because of the nature of needing to move the story forward in order to unlock the next piece of the tech tree, it also just removes the freedom and purpose of building up a base. There's no pull or appeal to invest in building up a base in any of the nodes other than just for, I guess, vibes. The building system also felt half-baked enough that I just purely focused on utility and crafting items since nothing else actually served any purpose in my dwarf's adventure. Finally, number 3, lack of polish. Like I said earlier, Moria is far from a bad game, but it also is lacking a certain oomph that I would expect something set in the Lord of the Rings universe to have. You have access to one of the largest and most beloved IPs with fans who have a high bar and expectation of quality. So why does Return to Moria feel kind of rushed? I don't know what choices had to be made during development, but for me, the lackluster combat is just what totally kills this game. I'm not encouraged to build. Exploration feels like a Potemkin village, feel free to Google that. And now slicing up goblins doesn't even feel good? What happened?
There is one dwarf yet in Moria who still draws breath.
I've been hard on Return to Moria, and I feel justified in that, especially because the initial release has left me so firmly here when I'd at least like to be here. Just let me feel a little bit of whelm. In our modern era of constantly updated and patched games, there is always hope that things could change for Return to Moria. I sat down to write this video on March 11th, 2024, which prompted me to ask, have the devs said anything since launch? Cue a blog post that came out on March 7th from Freeform Games, where game director Jean-Paul Dumont lays out plans for future content updates to the game. This honestly gives me a little bit of hope for Return to Moria. He lists off certain things like an expanded building mode and improved combat, sound, and visual effects, both of which could certainly help the game in its current state. But the majority of the blog post is dedicated to an alpha build of sandbox mode. Dumont says this about the game mode.
It's an early playable slice of a whole new way to retake Moria. Think of the game as you have it now as the campaign. When creating a new world, you can now choose to make it a sandbox. This strips out the linear narrative and lets procedural generation go wild. Only the doors of Durin and Dimril Gate are where you would expect it. Everything else is remixed, scrambled, and placed in Khazad-dûm's various levels and deeps. There are new kinds of environments, a whole new non-linear way of experiencing the mountain's biomes, new weapons and armor recipes to discover, and a renewed focus on the survival part of survival crafting. And, of course, the deeper you delve, the harder it gets.
This sandbox mode sounds a step closer to what I feel like I was originally hoping for this game. Perhaps this and other changes as they release and get stabilized will bring more players and interest back to Return to Moria. In the meantime, I'll keep my eye on things, and I'll even consider setting my own disappointment aside to dive back into this after some future updates. But for now, I'm at least not planning a Return to Moria anytime soon. But I do appreciate you watching this video. If you enjoyed this, please consider dropping a like down below and maybe sharing this video with someone else who you think might enjoy it. If you're in a mood to keep watching videos right now, you can try this one, which I think YouTube is going to pick for you. And I'll be honest with you, I am so curious as to what it's going to recommend next. But that's all I have for you for the meantime. Thank you for watching. Please continue to be good, be careful, be good and careful, and I'll see you all in the next one.